The movie begins with an elderly man named Lucian, whose son and daughter-in-law abandoned him at a nursing home far away, forcing him to fend for himself. From the moment he arrives, strange things begin to happen. On his very first night, he has a terrifying dream in which the face of an old man appears beneath the surface of the water. He never imagines that the man from his dream will die right in front of him the very next day. Soon afterward, Lucian discovers a mysterious creature imprisoned in the nursing home's basement, and from that point on, the events grow even stranger. A second victim, whose death was also foretold by the water, dies before his eyes. Even more horrifying, the next face to appear in the water is his own. Will Lucian escape this deadly prophecy? That's what we'll find out in today's recap. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button because it really helps support the channel. The movie opens at midnight inside a nursing home. As the clock strikes 12, a terrifying roar echoes from the basement, as if something is trying to crawl out of the water. The following morning, a car arrives at the facility carrying an elderly man named Lucian in the back seat. At this stage of his life, he should have been enjoying his retirement, but instead, his son and daughter-in-law leave him at the nursing home on the outskirts of town. They explain that his daughter-in-law is about to give birth, and they don't have enough time to take care of him. They promise that his stay is only temporary, and that they'll come back for him after the baby is born. All Lucian can do is watch sadly as they drive away. He then heads to his room to unpack his belongings, where he meets his roommate, another elderly man named Nolan, who seems friendly enough. Nolan jokingly warns Lucian not to unpack his bags because it brings bad luck, claiming that the last roommate who organized his things died shortly afterward. Lucian is startled by the comment until Nolan admits he was only teasing him. Still, he explains that most of the residents are old, frail, and deeply superstitious. If any problems arise, Lucian should avoid arguing with them, or he'll be the one who suffers. Before leaving, Nolan also warns him to keep a close eye on the nursing home's director, advice that Lucian quietly takes to heart. That night, after Nolan falls asleep, Lucian remains awake, unable to relax. He begins watching old family videos from the days when his wife was still alive, remembering the warmth and happiness they once shared. As he becomes lost in those memories, the water in a small sink suddenly begins to ripple as if something is moving beneath the surface. Slowly, the face of an elderly man emerges from the water. A split second later, Lucian wakes up in terror, shaken by the horrifying dream. It takes him quite a while to calm himself down. Noticing Lucian's anxiety, Nolan asks him what he dreamed about. He then tells him that people believe dreams seen on the first night in a new place often come true. Horrified by the idea, Lucian quickly washes his face and rushes outside to investigate. There, he discovers a fountain that looks exactly like the one from his dream. However, nothing is hiding beneath the water, which gives him some relief, and he returns inside for breakfast. During breakfast, Nolan introduces Lucian to 3 other elderly residents. Suddenly, Lucian realizes that the white-bearded man sitting across from him is the exact same man he saw beneath the water in his dream. His heart starts racing. He has never met this man before, so how could he have dreamed about him? Before he can process what is happening, the old man suddenly collapses and dies in front of everyone. At that moment, Lucian begins to believe that his nightmare wasn't just a dream, it was a prophecy of death. That night, he returns to his room and writes every detail of the dream in his notebook. As he prepares to wash his face and go to bed, he suddenly hears a desperate scream coming from somewhere outside. At first, he thinks he imagined it, but the scream comes again. Convinced that something sinister is happening inside the nursing home, he quietly leaves his room and follows the sound until he reaches the basement. As he gets closer, the noise grows louder. Moving aside an old mattress, he discovers a hidden door beneath it. The moment the clock strikes midnight, the hidden door slowly swings open by itself, almost as if it is inviting Lucian inside. Gathering his courage, he steps through the doorway and finds a chamber overgrown with creeping vines. At the center is a strange creature trapped within them. The moment the creature sees Lucian, it begins tempting him with promises, claiming that if he sets it free, it will grant him any wish he desires, even dreams that seem impossible. At first, Lucian refuses. But then the creature begins reciting a poem. Years ago, Lucian had been a famous stage actor until his career came to an end because he kept forgetting his lines. To his surprise, the poem the creature recites is one of his all-time favorites, and before long, the two of them are reciting it together from memory. Once they finish, the creature reveals that the stone capable of breaking its prison is hidden nearby. Following its instructions, Lucian cautiously prepares to descend deeper into the darkness in search of it. Suddenly, Lucian feels as if he's stepping into thin air, only to wake up in his bed moments later. At first, he assumes everything that happened the previous night was just another dream. But he's shocked when he notices several scratches on his arm, proving that the experience was real. Taking advantage of the fact that no one is watching him, he rushes back to the basement, trying to retrace the events from the night before. However, when he moves the old mattress aside, the hidden door is nowhere to be found. Just then, the nursing home's director arrives in the basement. Believing Lucian is simply experiencing another episode of memory loss, he takes him to his office and explains that it's normal for new residents to feel uncomfortable. He tells Lucian that if he notices anything unusual, he should report it immediately. After leaving the office, Nolan quietly asks Lucian during prayer whether the director had questioned him about his sleep. Nolan reveals that the director asks every resident the same question, and anyone who admits they aren't sleeping well is forced to take medication that slowly destroys their mind. He even suspects that the director is working with pharmaceutical companies to test experimental drugs on the elderly. If those residents later claim they're seeing hallucinations, the staff can simply dismiss them as mentally unstable, ensuring no one ever discovers how they actually died. After the prayer ends, Lucian becomes even more frightened, convinced that the people running the nursing home might kill him. He hurries back to his room and calls his son, hoping he'll come and take him home. But no one answers, and his last bit of hope quickly turns into heartbreak. That evening, the nursing home throws a welcome party for Lucian. To celebrate the occasion, the director makes a special exception and serves drinks to the residents. Everyone eats, drinks, and dances to the music while Lucian and Nolan sit together talking. Lucian can't help reminiscing about his glory days as a famous stage actor. Now, however, all he can do is sit in a nursing home, convinced he'll eventually be forgotten there until the day he dies. After Nolan finishes speaking, he gets up to dance. At that moment, Lucian suddenly spots his late wife among the dancing crowd. Shaken, he rushes outside to clear his head. Once again, he hears a strange sound coming from the water. As he looks closer, another face appears beneath the surface. This time, it belongs to an elderly woman named Enfang. A split second later, Lucian screams and wakes up in bed. It was another nightmare. Remembering that his previous dream had come true, he's terrified that Enfang doesn't have much time left to live. The following morning, the fitness instructor leads the residents through their daily exercises. Throughout the session, Lucian keeps a nervous eye on Enfang. Later, during a routine medical examination, he lies to the doctor, claiming that Enfang had fainted during exercise but wanted to keep it a secret after regaining consciousness. He insists the doctor should examine her to prevent something terrible from happening. The doctor calmly agrees to check on her. That evening, Lucian watches a television program discussing death. One of the experts explains that death isn't the end, it's only the end of the body, and the beginning of another stage of existence. The words deeply unsettle Lucian because they feel strangely personal. He quickly turns off the TV and heads to join a group of residents playing cards. When he arrives, he notices that Enfang is missing, and anxiety immediately washes over him. The others tell him to relax, explaining that Enfang has always had a poor sense of time. Suddenly, an impossible playing card appears, startling everyone. Someone screams, but it turns out to be a false alarm when Enfang rushes in moments later to join the game. Lucian is overwhelmed with relief, only to realize he has accidentally wet his pants from the fright. Too embarrassed to tell anyone, he hurries back to his room to change. As he stares at his aged reflection in the mirror, he feels even more sorrowful. A short while later, Nolan returns to the room and notices Lucian writing in his notebook. Trying to comfort him, Nolan encourages him not to bottle everything up and promises he'll always be there to listen if Lucian wants to talk. Just as he finishes speaking, Lucian's phone rings. It's his son calling. Lucian answers eagerly. At the same time, an elderly woman named Mary is waiting for her daughter to pick her up from the nursing home, but the staff, who know the truth, quietly escort her back to her room. That night, as midnight approaches, Lucian falls into another dream. He finds himself back on stage, reciting the same poem the mysterious creature had spoken. Before long, he keeps repeating two lines over and over. "I'm the only one left," and "There's still hope beneath the water." The next morning, Lucian wakes to find that his son has finally come to the nursing home. But he hasn't come to take him home. When Lucian asks why he hasn't contacted him for so long, his son apologizes, claiming he's been extremely busy, though guilt is written all over his face. Lucian isn't convinced. His son then unloads several boxes of Lucian's personal belongings from the car and explains that his wife is about to give birth. He's also renovating their old house and wants Lucian to stay comfortably at the nursing home until the renovations are finished and the baby is born. After that, he promises to bring him back home. Lucian is torn between joy and disappointment. He's excited about the arrival of his grandchild, yet deeply hurt by his son's decision. Seeing his sadness, Nolan tries to comfort him, admitting that he'd always struggled to accept the idea that life could end in loneliness. Sadly, he says, that's often the reality. While Lucian is sorting through his belongings and takes out his old dog's collar, loud emergency sirens suddenly echo outside. He and Nolan rush to the window and see an ambulance pulling up to the nursing home. They hurry downstairs, only to discover that the paramedics are desperately trying to save Enfang. One of her close friends stands nearby, heartbroken as every attempt to revive her fails. In the end, she dies, and the group loses another friend forever. Suddenly, one of the residents turns all his anger toward Lucian, accusing him of bringing death with him. Since Lucian arrived, 2 residents have died. Nolan defends his roommate, pointing out that deaths are sadly common in a nursing home, but the angry resident refuses to listen. He insults Lucian, calling him a curse. Those accusations immediately remind Lucian of the dream he had the night before, leaving him to wonder if he truly is somehow responsible for the deaths. That night, exactly at midnight, Lucian finds himself back in the basement once again. This time, the hidden door appears in the wall. He carefully descends the staircase and discovers a long underground corridor stretching into the darkness. He slowly makes his way forward through the eerie silence, hearing nothing except the echo of his own footsteps. When he finally reaches the bottom, he realizes he's standing inside an abandoned opera house, where another staircase descends endlessly into the depths below. Suddenly, Lucian hears a strange growl. He quickly leans against the wall and cautiously moves forward, only to discover a massive creature sitting on the ground. The moment the beast slowly raises its head, Lucian turns and runs for his life. The creature immediately gives chase, and in a desperate sprint, Lucian manages to pull ahead and escape back into the basement. Just then, he crashes into the nursing home's director and collapses to the floor from the shock. When Lucian regains consciousness, the director is staring at him with concern. Soon afterward, a series of vivid visions begin appearing before his eyes. He sees his son, his beloved dog that was supposed to return home with him, and finally his late wife. But it quickly becomes clear that none of them are real. Lucian is slowly losing his ability to tell the difference between reality and illusion. In one of those visions, his wife is lying beside him. He gently calls her name and reaches out to touch her, but he's horrified when several strands of her hair come off in his hand. When he looks at her again, she has transformed into the way she looked just before she died. A split second later, Lucian jolts awake from the nightmare, only to realize he's receiving an N4 injection. Nolan watches him with a troubled expression before finally admitting that everything he had warned Lucian about might be true. According to him, the nursing home is secretly testing experimental drugs on the elderly, and only the strongest survive. The rest are simply left to die. Lucian sits in silence for a moment before grabbing his phone and calling his son again. This time, the phone is out of service. He tries once more, but his son still doesn't answer. Overwhelmed with grief, Lucian breaks down in tears. The following morning, Lucian looks completely defeated after realizing his son isn't coming back for him. Around that time, a nurse hands out the resident's daily medication. Lucian takes the pill, then spends a long time staring at a blank sheet of paper with a pen in his hand, unable to write a single word. The thought of spending the rest of his life in the nursing home fills him with despair. That night, he dreams about the fountain again. This time, however, the face beneath the water is his own. He wakes up terrified, shaking from the nightmare, and it takes him a long time to calm down. Refusing to die this way, Lucian begs Nolan to help him carry out a dangerous plan. After a brief hesitation, Nolan finally agrees. Lucian anxiously waits in his room until Nolan eventually returns with his clothes oddly stuffed. It turns out Lucian had asked him to steal a large piece of raw meat, though Nolan has no idea why he needs it. While they're talking, the nurse enters to deliver Lucian's medication. He pretends to swallow the pill with water but secretly hides it under his tongue. As soon as the nurse leaves, he spits it out. At midnight, while the nurse is distracted, Lucian quietly steals the keys to the medication room. Once inside, he grabs a bottle of sleeping pills, places the raw meat on a table, pokes several holes into it with a pen, and stuffs each opening with the crushed sleeping pills. After finishing, he carries the meat down to the basement, where the creature continues guarding the abandoned opera house. Choosing the perfect spot, Lucian throws the meat directly in front of the monster. The beast devours it in a single bite while Lucian watches nervously from above, terrified that he'll be discovered. Meanwhile, Nolan notices that Lucian's bed is empty. He turns on the light and searches the room but can't find him anywhere. While looking around, he discovers Lucian's notebook and is shocked to find every page completely blank. Lucian patiently waits until the monster falls into a deep sleep, believing the sleeping pills have finally taken effect. Once he's convinced the creature is unconscious, he quietly sneaks toward the room behind it. But suddenly, the monster's tail twitches, and it instantly wakes up. In the next moment, it grabs Lucian and violently throws him across the floor. Fortunately, the drugs begin affecting the creature. As it lunges again, it loses its balance, crashes through a barrier, and falls into a deep chasm. Still trembling with fear, Lucian slowly gets back on his feet. Wasting no time, he moves forward and opens an old wooden door. Beyond it lies an empty room with another staircase leading downward. He carefully descends until he reaches a fountain identical to the one at the entrance of the nursing home. The imprisoned creature had previously told him about a magical stone hidden beneath the water. If the stone is destroyed, the creature will finally regain its freedom. Looking into the fountain, Lucian notices a faint blue glow beneath the surface. He dives into the water, swims toward the glowing circle, and retrieves the stone from its center. The blue light immediately disappears. Gasping for air, he climbs back onto the shore with the stone clutched tightly in his hand. Now all he has to do is destroy the stone to free the creature. In return, the monster has promised to grant him any wish and give him a chance to continue living. But no matter how hard Lucian tries, the stone refuses to crack. He takes it to the kitchen, finds a wooden mallet, and attempts to smash it. What Lucian doesn't realize is that something has begun emerging from the fountain while he's focused on breaking the stone. Suddenly, a furious roar echoes behind him. He spins around in horror and immediately hides inside a cabinet as he hears the creature's claws scraping across the floor, drawing closer with every passing second. His heart pounds wildly as he squeezes his eyes shut. The monster's growls are now right beside his ear, but he's too terrified to look. The creature's hand reaches the edge of the cabinet. Luckily, it never notices him. After standing there for a few tense moments, the beast finally turns around and walks away. Throughout the entire ordeal, Lucian is so terrified that he can't make a sound. Once he's certain the creature is gone, he slowly steps out, still holding the stone. He cautiously approaches the kitchen doorway and looks around, believing the monster has truly left. Just then, a small bird suddenly flies into the room, making Lucian scream in fright. Relieved to realize it's only a bird, he barely has a chance to catch his breath before strange noises begin coming from the ceiling. Moments later, enormous claws slowly descend. The monster never actually left. It had climbed onto the ceiling to ambush him. Frozen with fear, Lucian can't move. The creature wraps its hand around his throat and slowly lifts him into the air. It stares emotionlessly at the helpless old man struggling in its grip while tightening its hold. Lucian desperately gasps for air, but with every passing second, the creature squeezes harder. He has no chance of escaping. His legs begin to tremble. The light slowly fades from his eyes. Finally, his head falls limp, and Lucian dies in the monster's grasp. The stone slips from his hand as his strength leaves him. Strangely, the stone that had been impossibly indestructible just moments earlier suddenly shatters on its own. As it breaks apart, the creature's prison is destroyed, and it finally regains its freedom. The next morning, everything outside the nursing home is covered in white. Inside, the nurses and residents lie motionless across the floor or collapsed from their chairs. Every one of them is dead. The only person still moving is Lucian, the same man who died in the monster's hands the night before. Slowly, he turns around and sees his beloved wife standing before him once again. She smiles at him with warmth and peace. At last, Lucian smiles back. And with that, the movie comes to an end. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget that your opinion matters to us, so be sure to leave your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.